Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to another adventure in Hong Kong House of Cards. Tonight's adventure, set most likely well after sundown, is between a member of the Kuei Jin population and a member of the totally not Kuei Jin population, Dmitry Dragomir, ex-progenitor. Since they've exchanged phone numbers at this point, and agreed to meet each other this weekend for a slightly more intimate interview, tea most likely. He'll have contacted her and asked if he could visit her at her wherever her current abode is, because he doesn't have her address. Response?
And Dmitry would be given the details to Z's newest acquisition in real estate. He was invited for like a housewarming party, but since the two were so freshly introduced, she would understand if he didn't come. But she will have one of her servants prepare tea for the two. Make sure that the setting is somewhat more secret. So it's kind of like in their garden. There's black and satin sheets that cover the table. And everything is kind of like immaculately placed on this tabletop with the saucers, with the cream, and the tea itself.
Oh Lord, it's a tea ceremony.
That's Japanese.
Okay.
Z sitting at the table. But tea is still quite significant. Z is sitting at the table, but one of her servants will see Dmitry in.
Ah, so it's a sizable estate then, or?
It's small, but some devil tiger, some Kuei Jin insist upon being pampered, and Z appears to be well present.
Excellent. Well, he'll take a little visit. He's dressed much as you would see on the picture. It's pretty much his standard go-to outfit. It might be in something slightly more formal. But not like, absolute, wedding formal or anything of that nature.
Right.
He'll step in. He's got a briefcase with him. It's a rather large briefcase, actually, and a little bit heavier, like one of those metallic ones.
Okay.
He won't bother taking it in. He just sets it down in the entryway, or wherever he's told to leave it, essentially, and makes his way into the dining area.
Yeah, he's escorted by a young Asian gentleman, more Korean than Chinese, and he opens the door that leads out into a back patio, and it's kind of like a nighttime setting. There's the slight perfume scent of cherry blossoms that kind of hang in the air, because evening's kind of like it's a tad bit human. There's a sound of like nature as he kind of slides his glass door behind him shut as Dmitry kind of joins Ziggy on the patio for tea.
He'll bow slightly. The character has more etiquette knowledge than I do in these circumstances. He has been living in Seoul for the last probably year or two, so he's got a little idea of etiquette being different than normal. Not exactly the best preparation for going to China, but it's better than New York City.
Z kind of stands up and she kind of walks over to greet Dmitry. It seems that she doesn't acknowledge really the bow. She kind of smiles at that, but she seems to, at least currently, to be embracing different kind of customs and norms, because she kind of like smiles and like offers to shake Dmitry's hand.
He'll shake her hand, quite firmly, pleasantly. So.
It's like, I'm glad that you could join me. She gestures for the table. Please sit.
Thank you. He makes his way over to wherever is most convenient and seats himself.
Z Yi sits and says, I was very excited when you contacted me.
Well, I thought that based on our discussion before, it might be prudent to continue the rapport and see if anything comes of it. It's always useful to know people in the city.
Agreed. She gestures for the tea in a way that kind of asks without saying if he would like a cup.
Oh, he nods. He's okay with drinking tea.
Okay.
As opposed to dinking trees, which I almost said there.
Don't dink a tree, man. Splinters and such. She pours him a cup of tea. It's a small cup. The china is elegant china. It's like porcelain. Looks very delicate, but artfully crafted and stuff like that. Has like a nice little design on the side of the cup. And she does. It's like there's cream and all the assortment of flavors that you like to add to your tea. I wasn't sure what you preferred. She pours herself a cup as well and kind of savors the sip before she takes a sip.
He'll probably take a little bit of cream with his, but he's curious as to what type it is first before he dilutes it, shall we say, or corrupts it.
yeah. It's a darker, like headier tea, but it seems like an Earl Grey.
Nice. Okay, made a willpower check, resisted the urge to make a Star Trek joke. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Suffice to say, he would definitely recognize that one.
Yeah.
He gets comfortable. So, had some recent breakthroughs with some projects I was working on.
Always interested about breakthroughs.
Now, this one might be something that you would find interesting if you were interested in perhaps, well, he kind of like trails off for a moment, so he's considering how to phrase this properly. If you were interested in joining into our little enterprise at some point, you might be able to find items like this, and most likely far superior items. There would be many perks to working with us.
Well, I do on occasion want to get my hands dirty, she says. She takes a sip from her tea at that moment to kind of conceal a smile that kind of broadens across her face.
That said, of course, well, it's clear to me that those here have an interest in cooperating, and I respect that. There seems to be enough tension between the various groups that not everyone is suitable to speak to everyone. Many people avoid each other. Many groups avoid each other.
Right.
For example, I don't see much fondness between the lichens and the blood drinkers, so to speak. He kind of like says the word carefully, like he might use a different word than blood drinkers because he's not sure if there are servants about and whether she'd want that sort of language to be used around them.
They seem to be secluded away from any like prying eyes. The servants are back behind like the glass that leads to this deck. But she kind of gestures the thought away. It's obvious she doesn't consider herself a blood drinker, but it's like, blood drinkers.
It's obvious he's not referring to her type.
Yeah. She kind of gives she kind of gives that impression that I hate them too.
He says, I don't find them to be... let us put it this way. Of all the groups in the city thus far, the only two that I think would work well with my personal tastes, shall we say, would be your group and theirs, for different reasons.
Fair enough. We both have very potent skills in our area of interest.
This is true, but that is ultimately not the reason. Any of the groups in the city, I'm sure, have their own specialties and abilities. If I needed a furry tank, I would be looking in a different direction. But since I'm not particularly interested in force most of the time, subtlety is far more important. That falls to your two camps, so to speak. And there's also there are other reasons as well. Both factions are, one might even go so far as to say, ruthless in certain scenarios, and that is not always, while that is not always desirable, is also not always undesirable.
Zee just kind of leans forward. She's definitely like listening to your words. As you speak, her eyes kind of trail off for a moment as she considers that it might be painfully apparent that Dimitri hasn't seen a demon form of Equation. So, like, a smile kind of coils on her lips, and she says, "Yes, we're definitely a lot more subtle, as you said."
Under most circumstances, he kind of looks, he says, bear in mind, I know very little about your kind, except that you are, in some superficial ways, similar to the Western variety, but you have very different origins, I'm told. I don't know what they are, I just know they're very different.
Well, it is, as you said,
theirs is a... Sorry.
Go ahead.
Theirs is more of a bloodborne pathogen passed down from victim to victim. Yours, I take it, does not function in that manner.
They hail from, I don't know their creation myth, but I do know that we're quite different.
I'm not familiar with... He waves a hand, like, dismissively. Like, I'm not familiar with their origin mythos either, but that doesn't concern me. Stories about some fabled whatever doesn't really concern me in that case. If one can offer proof of such things, yes. Otherwise, it's usually irrelevant to the current matters.
I think we're alike in this. I definitely consider the hard sciences when it comes to such things.
Yes, which makes my position somewhat unique. While there are those affiliated with technological designs, shall we say, among the House of Pentacles, they are usually a bit looser about the applications. Their science is a little erratic.
How unfortunate. Science should be everything but erratic.
The virtual adepts are at least closer. That is a group among the House of Pentacles. There's a member by the name of Styles in the city, if you should meet him. He's decent enough, but even their particular brand of science is closer to techno-sorcery than anything else. It operates more on wishful thinking than actual method.
Techno-sorcery does sound interesting, but
less...
part.
Yes.
The sorcery part does sound problematic, as you say.
Yes. So, he's still sipping at his tea. I had hoped to actually show you a example of what we've created recently. It's it might be something that you would find useful. I don't know. He knows nothing about, transformations of Quajan, like you said. So as far as he knows, if she's out in the field, she's going to be in this form.
Right.
So if he finds out otherwise, this suit may be less appropriate, or else she'll have to go in quiet. Otherwise, she's going to burst the suit to pieces, probably.
Yeah. But there's just the
Alright.
mode. Yeah. Like you said, yeah.
Yeah. So he gestures back towards the entryway. I brought it with me, but it's he kind of hesitates, like how to phrase this. I would need to change into it. It's article of clothing, so to speak.
She stands and she will walk slowly to the patio and open the door. So please come in. I have a guest room that you could change in.
Thank you. He'll fetch the metallic briefcase, and like it's a big briefcase. It's closer to a piece of luggage than anything else, really. He takes it with him into the room, opens it up.
She closes the
Yeah.
patio door, and the windows, and she excuses her servants for the rest of the evening. As he goes back and changes into this, she's definitely going to have him display it inside the house away from prying eyes.
Oh yes, that would be obviously that would be preferable. Otherwise, the spy eyes are going to get quite the nice view. Anyways, okay, we're going to have some fun. He leaves the door. He actually, crazily enough, he leaves the door to the room open.
Okay.
He's changing in the bathroom of the guest room, assuming it has one. But he leaves the door open. But he's assuming like she's not close enough to see anything, so it doesn't matter. He's not modest or anything.
Right.
He's going to change into the suit, leave his other clothes piled up in a nice little pile of folds, stuff like that. He folds it up.
Right.
Anyways, he gets into the suit, and he's going to activate.
Okay.
And step back out into the room. Now, I don't know what sensory abilities she has, but this will be fun. I'm going to refer to what Brett gave for stats on this thing. One moment. Take half a second to.
Okay. Good job.
Almost there. Sorry.
Not a problem.
All right, I got it. I'm just going to copy this so I don't have to look it up in the future. Okay, perfect. Okay, and with my dice here, okay, okay. Unless you're using Auspex, heightened senses, or some similar power, you won't have an automatic way to negate this. At least I don't think you will. I don't know what Quajian sensory abilities are.
Yes. So Quajian do have sensory abilities. They are not automatic. They have to be activated. So until there is an event that will cause her to activate this ability,
she'd be relying on standard perception alertness.
Correct.
Okay, I'm going to roll my stealth, and I don't know if it's going to show up, but I'll screenshot it if it needs to be verified later, but we can trust each other here. Because I won't be able to see your roll either, most likely.
Dope.
Okay, so I'm going to make my roll. It's at... stealth is usually dexterity plus stealth.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to roll... And I'm burning a willpower because he wants this to work well.
Okay.
I have 3 successes. You need to do perception alertness at difficulty 8.
Okay. Rolling, rolling, rolling. Get those dogs are rolling, right. No.
You get nothing? You get nothing?
Yeah, she's probably filing her nails.
All right, then. Then you're going to see the reverse of this as he stealthily creeps into the room and is standing, like, presumably you're sitting in such a way that you're waiting for him to come out of the room. You have full view of the room.
Yeah.
He manages to make his way all the way out, and He's going to be standing like a foot or just out of arm's reach, just so you don't have like a lethal reaction that kills my character.
Yes, please stand out of arm's reach.
He'll be standing out of arm's reach, but like a foot or so behind and to the side, not directly behind you where he'd be threatening. But you're going to see he'll basically like clear his throat, and you're going to turn and not see anything most likely.
Mm-hmm.
But when you turn, you're going to see the reverse of this.
All right. So,
except it's a full body suit. It covers his face, hands, and everything else.
So, a couple of disturbing things will happen in that instance.
He is a couple feet away, not out of tentacle reach.
So, tentacle porn is a thing. So, Z's eyes turn like this golden, and they have like a feral kind of animalistic sheen, and there's like a growl that comes from like not even her throat. It's definitely deeper in her chest, so it's like deep and reverberant. And she turns to start to square off against Dimitri, and she starts to change into something.
And even after he decloaks, or is that before?
Oh no! Okay, you decloak. You decloak. Okay.
Yeah.
Said,
That's it.
Okay.
He cleared his throat, and then like she would have had a half instant where she could have done some of those things, but then as she turns, he's like already decloaked. She'd see the tail end of the decloak.
Okay, great. So it's just the golden eyes.
Though she might not recognize it's him in a full body suit, but she can probably infer that it is.
She can see his face. She knows it's him.
No. His face is covered.
Covered with
full body. It's like a full body deep sea diving suit almost. It's
right,
like a synthetic skin.
Right, but you say he goes from cloaked to actually there, right?
Yes. So, but even when he's uncloaked, he's still wearing this suit, so it's obscuring his face.
Okay. So he clears his throat. Z will turn, and her eyes will turn that golden kind of shade, with like these black, like cat-like pupils, and then she kind of growls deep in her throat, and she begins to change. She starts to get bigger.
He'll back up a little bit, put both hands up in a conciliatory gesture, and he'll speak. And his voice is a little bit muffled, but you can still recognize it. Well, calm down.
Oh, okay. Sorry. And she will stop. But
I see it accomplished its effect, though. Hopefully it impressed without stressing you too much.
No. You're fine. She says she does spend and lose 2 demon chi, though, just for the record. So.
By the way, what was she starting to transform into? Like early stages, what did I see?
Her eyes turned golden. She started to get taller, and her fingernails started to form into like more serrated talons.
He kind of looks like at the hands of the suit and goes, I may want to invest in making this stretch, but if you try something like that in this suit, it's going to burst seams.
She smiles, or I could just not try that. She says,
that would be preferable, yes, except as a last resort.
She will kind of take a breath and calm herself, and she will give Dimitri a curt bow. She's like, I apologize. You're my guest here. I hope I didn't frighten you.
Trust me, I have seen. He hesitates for a moment. At least 2 things more distressing than that. Though I believe one of them was behind a sheet of thick glass at the time.
She will chuckle. She's like, good. As always, since you are a friend, you're welcome here, and I want you to feel as such. Goodness.
I'm sorry, burping up the last human she ate.
No, not the belchies. Like a wedding ring pops out of her mouth.
Sorry about that. No, he'll just be like, it's quite all right. He unzips the hood a little bit so you can see his face again.
And she
Um,
definitely looks at this very interestingly. She kind of starts to kind of inch a little bit closer and kind of like eyeing this fabric.
he holds out the hand if she wants to touch it or anything else, like she can examine it personally. First thing she's going to notice is it's not fabric.
That's
It's
what
got
she's
it.
really looking really hard at it. So she's looking like trying to identify like what kind of texture this is. Is this cotton? Is this satin?
It
Is this silk?
feels like the skin of a sea animal, like an octopus. It's
Okay,
sticky and it's not sticky. It's like slimy and
right.
alive almost. It's not pulsing or anything, but it's like touching the skin of an animal.
Yeah. So she kind of gently kind of just kind of touches and examines his hand. It's like, what is this fabric? I've never felt anything like it.
It's actually an organic material and it is technically alive. Hope that's not too disturbing.
No. No, I've dealt with things much more disturbing than that. Alive, you say, can it communicate?
No, it is not sentient. It has no brain function. It doesn't even have a brain. It's just living cells, which are controlled by an electronic interface. It uses an active camouflage system similar in nature to what is used by octopi, squid, chameleons, that sort of beastie. But it's more sophisticated, obviously. It works a lot quicker. But there are drawbacks. It can't stay out of its native environment for too long. It has to be immersed in a nutrient-rich gel during the day. But I suppose in your case, that wouldn't be too much of an issue. You're not as likely to be using it during the day, right?
Definitely not.
Then it wouldn't be a problem. Oh, and if it, based on preliminary studies, if it were to be damaged, like if you were to tear a hole in it for some reason or get shot, um, which obviously we hope that never happens, but things being what they are, if it is damaged, it will not naturally repair itself. I will have to repair it personally. A bit inconvenient, but
That's understandable. The same as any other garment, right?
exactly.
I must say that is quite potentially an advantageous set of gear.
It is merely the first thing we've created since entering the city. It was a joint effort between myself and my associate, but I think we could easily make more of these suits if we had people willing to use them.
That would be definitely one.
However, I should warn you, it's not as likely to protect you from the more observant types, shall we say, and anyone using, say, thermal imaging or anything of that nature will be able to see you plain as day. But anyone looking with their eyes or using a camera is far less likely.
Yes, so that shan't be a problem. Of course, this will be just an additional precaution. We have ways of being careful that we employ nightly.
Actually, he's going to kind of hesitate for a moment. He reaches into the same briefcase and he pulls out a set of lab goggles, but they look very sophisticated and advanced. Kind of hesitates for a moment, puts them on, looks at her, kind of whirs for a second, like he's checking something. My apologies, I'm just rather curious. He's doing a basic scan to see if she actually generates any heat. And I got 2 successes.
Currently, yes.
Currently, yes. Okay, so right now it's equivalent to a human. All right.
Probably a little less, but
Okay.
yeah.
Kind of tilts his head. That's different. Is that something you control, or is it normally that way for your folk? He realizes he's being vague. It's like, your thermal signature, your heat.
Oh, there are those who can duplicate this ability, and there are those who can't.
So by default, there is no thermal emission.
It depends on the person in question, of course. Some
Interesting.
have some have mastery of visibility. I hear there are certain of the blood drinkers who can demonstrate such a talent as well.
I'd heard that, but I'd never, let's say I'd never examined that ability firsthand. Well, I suppose if one did not have a heat signature, then the amount generated by this would be virtually nothing, so wouldn't have to worry about that.
This is very interesting indeed.
But yes, so do you think this might tempt you into working with our outfit, so to speak?
Well, in fact, um, everything in our mythos has both a physical and a spiritual equivalence. I'm just wondering about the spiritual significance of such an adventure. I find it somewhat troubling, but
He kind of looks down at the suit. You mean this?
yeah.
Think of it this way. It's not even truly alive in any sense. It's something that would normally be dead, rather like stitching the skins of a couple different sea creatures together. That would normally not be alive. I've simply made sure it stays alive. Left to its own devices, the soul of the composite creature would have long since passed. In layman's terms, the genetic structure I used to assemble this material came from dead seafood. So the animal was long since gone. There is no brain matter in this. It doesn't have a brain. It doesn't have its own life force. It's simply prevented from fully dying or decaying. Which is a little bit unusual, I admit, but there should be no soul to worry about in this case.
I think you misunderstand me. That's the troubling part. Are you familiar with beings that can ride others' skin?
I've heard of ghosts, to use the term.
Do you know if that would be a problem in this instance?
I don't imagine there'd be anything for them to ride in this instance. There's no sensory. If they were, they would have they have no eyes to see out of, no ears, no anything. Honestly, it would be a very dull ride.
Good point. Maybe I'm being overly cautious.
No, it's quite all right. Thinking from a different angle is entirely why I started this venture, to be honest. I would not even have thought about anything like that. But that would be a reason to... when I mentioned this to Styles briefly, he had some input on this design. When I mentioned it to him, his idea was to actually make the suit sentient. If I had done that, which I do not have the ability to do that, had I done something like that, though, that would render it vulnerable to being possessed, in theory. So this is a reason to keep it just the way it is.
I see. I haven't heard of many evil spirits possessing worms, for example.
No, exactly. It's not something that would be common.
This has the potential to be quite useful.
I don't plan on making a huge number of these, because while I could, my logic is this. If I make a large number of these and supply them to the various entities in the city who might use them, someone's going to be an idiot. They'll use it. They'll get caught. And then the next thing you know, this will be useless.
Right. And, well, there's the matter of supply and demand as well.
Oh, I could easily create more of this. It's not... If I needed to, I could create quite a few of them. But it would simply be a little bit time-consuming. There's nothing inherently... His mouth twists as he uses the word magical about this. It's a scientific principle enough. If it were using something along those lines, some investiture of primal energies, then yes, it would be very precious. I would have difficulty making even one. But it doesn't, so it's not a problem. Which also means, unlike other devices used by people like myself, if I were to use this suit, hypothetically, of course, if I were to use this suit around other people, you know, the regular people,
Right.
if they were to see it in action, it wouldn't destroy itself. Whereas if you were to try this with some other devices, it would likely explode or render itself permanently non-functional. In this case, there's no such issue, except for the obvious that you don't want them to see it in general.
This is quite the invention, then.
I figured it might go.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go first.
She's definitely considering the definitely uses of like a thing or a suit such as this.
That's the suit thing, yes.
Particularly if it was able to accommodate my various shapes, she says with a smile.
That would be slightly more difficult, I believe, but not impossible. Dare I ask what your other shapes are? I think I saw you turning into a rather large one momentarily, but he's like asking cautiously. Like he's obviously he's not disgusted by the concept. He's more cautious, like he doesn't want to get consumed.
Suffice it to say, this is not the only form that I have.
That I understood. I meant
I could give you the parameters for it if you would like to create such a suit for it.
You mean size, weight, so on and so forth? That might help. Would it be too forward of me to ask to see one of those forms, or is it likely to cause some sort of unusual effect? I don't discourage easily, so unless it's going to have some sort of mental compulsion, I'm not likely to run screaming from the room.
She smiles and very clearly says, it's pretty likely to have an adverse reaction.
Well, I know one way I can get around that. Called a bit of a loophole. He takes the goggles and steps into the other room, to the bedroom, closes the door, but you can still hear him. He says, "Try it now."
Try what?
He's suggesting you change form now. While he's in the other room, the door is closed.
She goes back to the other room and knocks on the door. No, come on out. You misunderstand me. It's most likely to have an adverse reaction on me. As I said...
Oh, I misunderstood that. My apologies. I thought you meant it was going to make me run.
Well, when you adapt the form of a demon, sometimes your thoughts follow those of a demon. So it would be quite unsightly.
Yes, that might be fairly dangerous. Yeah, in that case, yes, just a general description of the size, shape, and form, and so on, probably appropriate. One form or more than
one? Well, of course, there's more than one form, but only one form that we would need to be concerned about when I'm wearing this suit, right?
I would assume so, yes. This suit is designed for a human-ish occupant. The ish is definite.
Well, this seems to be quite promising.
I'm sure we'll be able to find some sort of compromise. In any case, I should mention that like I said, the two groups I will most likely be working with the closest are your particular group and the parasites. But That said, we I am sure there are ways we will be useful to the city. I don't plan on anyone who works with me being an employee of that nature, so don't worry, I'm not going to start trying to order you around. I'm not foolish. At least not in that regard. But all the same, I'm sure there will be ways that we can cooperate for the benefit of the city.
Yes, I imagine there will be many ways that we could do that.
So, I will change back into my normal outfit and be right out.
Sure,
Keep- he's already in there actually, so he might as well just. He goes and changes. Comes back out a minute later, and he's kind of like grimacing a little bit, like, "This makes me feel like I need a shower."
Well,
I mean, it is like being inside a living creature. So
the shower is just there if you so choose. She says with a smile.
he kind of grins. He's like, "Tempting, but I'll survive." So, in any case, that's one example. I'm sure we can come up with others. Yes, I should probably give you our location. But I must advise, if you are to visit the location, try to be, well, publicly it's a warehouse, just a warehouse, but we're using it as our facility for designing, implementing, and so on. It would not do for anything noticeable to happen in its enterprise. We're trying to keep a low profile.
That's fair.
So if that's not a problem, then everything will work fine.
Not a problem at all.
In that case, he gives you the address.
She kind of takes that down, kind of puts it on an end table in the bedroom.
Now, I should ask, as I said, with the two groups that might be most likely to work with us, would you have any problem working with someone of the Western persuasion, so to speak? Or would it be on a case-by-case basis?
As a caveat, as a blanket, I don't have a problem. But of course, different people might not prove to be so advantageous to work with. So, like, I've worked with people from the West on many incursions and business ventures that I've had in other prefectures. So, it's not unheard of. But there are people of my persuasion that piss me off. She says with a smile. I'm sure there are Westerners that will piss me off as well.
Exactly. Which, as I said, that's more of a case-by-case basis. I was simply looking to make sure there wasn't a blanket disapproval or something of that nature. I won't work with anyone like that, et cetera, et cetera. If it's not that extreme, then I wouldn't worry about it. I don't plan on inviting you.
Oh yes. Yes, that should be a problem.
All right, then. With that in mind, only one last thing I would request, and it's rather obvious. I'm sure it doesn't even need to be said, but just for the record. Obviously, this laboratory doesn't exist, and to anyone else who asks, obviously, I can't come between you and whatever obligations you have with your own people. If you are asked by one of your own superiors, I suppose, then obviously do what you must do, obviously. But, in general, I'm trying not to advertise our presence even to the supernaturals. The more people who know about it, the more likely it is to be discovered by people who don't want to discover it.
Exactly. She smiles. It's like, that's good. I was hopeful. I was afraid you were going to declare a no feeding clause.
He raises an eyebrow. I've actually been curious about that.
She just smiles. Kind of like she's joking, but kind of like she's not.
No, he's honestly not distressed by it. He's more like,
No, it's
So
obviously
I know
she's
the,
kind of like a very cat-like that she's kind of playing with him a little bit here.
Oh, he's actually more curious than anything else. He's like, I know that I'll likely learn more about your people by close association, but just in the interim, dietary preferences, I can easily acquire plasma, keep it on the site, but I hear that's not necessarily what floats your boat, so to speak.
I find that my people have a wide assortment of dietary preferences. Let's see.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we can arrange something.
Yeah. This is awesome.
As long as I'm not on the menu, we're all good. He's obviously joking.
She's sad from the bed. She's like, I'm not sure. Perhaps you would enjoy it.
He grins. He's like, oh, it depends then. I suppose I could be persuaded, as long as it doesn't prevent me from showing up to work the next morning.
Yeah. Seize the day.
And with that, probably a good place to end the scene, or is there anything else we really need to do?
Nope, that's good. That's good.
All right. In that case, thank you, players for players, watchers for watching, and have a good night.